Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm the Spell Singer, and this is my ongoing review of the series of game books known as Lone Wolf. And this review is going to give you a quick look at this particular title with its book number. We'll go through the blurb, take a look at the different covers for this book, and then we'll talk a bit about the plot and the locations, go over some of those game mechanics, check out the character sheet, talk about some of the artwork which I will run through this video, and some of my fun facts that I may have found. And then I'll talk about my own likes with dislikes, and we'll finish on a summary and a score out of 10 for this book. But before I get into that, I just want to say a quick thank you for 5 recent subscribers to this channel, just to show a bit of appreciation. So a big thanks to Cernis! Exclamation mark. Invader Boy 71, Wibbly Wobbly, WC Bausman, and Tim Byrne. Thank you so much. It is appreciated, and I hope you're enjoying the videos so far. So let's have a look at this book. So this is book 2. This is Fire on the Water, so second part of the Lone Wolf series, and this was published way back in 1984, and of course the author Joe Dever, or Dever, I'll go with Dever, and same old illustrator as well, Gary Chalk. So those two are still on board, giving us lots of Lone Wolf goodness. And the blurb for this book from my copy goes like this. Bitter war rages through your homeland as the Dark Lords of the West lay siege to the capital. The king has commanded you to make haste to the realm of Durinor to retrieve the only power in Magnimund that can save your people, the Summer Sword, the Sword of the Sun. Ahead of you lie treachery and sabotage, ferocious sea storms, the tunnel of Tanalin, and the ghostly death hulks of Vanator, the traitor. Enemies hide beyond every turn of the page. Will you rise to meet your destiny? So that's the blurb for this book. But let's take a look at the covers, because like we did with the first book, Flight from the Dark, there's quite a few covers in this one. And Fire on the Water has almost as many covers as that first book. As you can see from this graphic here, we start again on that top row from the left, the original Sparrow cover, showing Vanator firing a spell. And then we've got the Beaver reprint cover, which isn't quite as good, with Lone Wolf fighting Vanator's undead with a Death Hulk in the background. And you've got Pacer, seems to have taken inspiration from the Beaver cover with a kind of redrawn Vanator, again spell casting. And the Red Fox cover has some cool looking undead on a ship. And the first row ends with the older Gallimar reprint, showing a shocked looking sailor. The second row here begins with the Mongoose cover, showing Lone Wolf attacking the undead, a frequent theme here, as the Altia cover shows the same kind of creepy looking undead as well. And for his second go round with Vincent Books, we've got Dal Largo, gives that climactic sea battle. And his art is really high quality here, as always. Tim and Mass once again has a shirtless Lone Wolf fighting off the undead. And the row ends with the newer Gallimar reprint, with Lone Wolf about to attack some Kran. And then on this second image, so the third row, it begins with the final Danish cover, where Lone Wolf has the Summer Sword, and we see some ships. And then we've got the Serbo-Croatian, Bulgarian covers. So these two, they kind of follow on, kind of generic as before. And then they got the AF-SF cover, which depicts the Summer Sword through here. It doesn't really look much like it does when it's drawn and illustrated by Gary Chalk. Not particularly golden looking, but still. And then finally, we've got that interesting original first edition from Gallimar Art, Lone Wolf basically artist Peter Andrew Jones, and these early French covers are mostly the same as the Red Fox art. But it's interesting to note that it was Gallimard who brought Peter Andrew Jones into Lone Wolf, and they continue to use them through to book 7. So some of you may recognise that name from the Fighting Fantasy books. He was involved in some of the artwork there as well. And then on the bottom row we have Lucas Thalin's work for the Swedish reprint, showing Vonatar's attack on the Journey's ship from Lone Wolf's perspective as he's fighting off the undead. And then we've got Jambo's, again shows Lone Wolf fighting the undead in a climactic battle on the seas. And then the last one, Homeguard's 2024 Junior Edition with a cartoon take on that Berkeley Pacer cover. So there you go. That's all the covers. I'm pretty sure I didn't miss any. But it's always interesting to sort of see how each region kind of likes to depict this particular book and what they choose to have as their main cover to represent it. Now, let's take a look at the plot and those locations. Okay, so Fire on the Water is widely regarded as superior, a more epic and challenging sequel to that of Flight from the Dark, offering a thrilling, high-stakes quest to retrieve that legendary summer sword, the Sword of the Sun. And the story features a really diverse, kind of action-packed adventure with lots of locations, improved pacing, quite high difficulty, requiring more tactical choices and careful resource management in order to successfully navigate this book. In Fire on the Water, everything that made Flight from the Dark an unforgettable adventure is also offered, again here on an even greater scale. And instead of facing a journey of a few hundred miles of war-torn Summerland, this adventure, you're embarking on a much more grand scale epic adventure covering a greater distance. So this adventure is more like a month as opposed to a few days in book 1 and can cover up to anything up to like 1,000 miles in length. So it's a far grander kind of adventure that you take on this one. And in it you have to survive all these kind of pirate infested seas as you travel from Homeguard to begin your adventure, and you also have to face off against all these different enemies, clash with the Helghast, not just one of them but gangs of them, and you're never really given the luxury of feeling particularly safe in this adventure. There's plenty of gruesome and humiliating deaths lying in wait for you, and in this quest you've got to carry a magnificent golden ring called the Seal of Hamadal. Of course, you pick that up at the end of book 1, and you've got to carry that to the capital city of Duranor. And there, you're tasked with seeking the aid of the Duranese in honour of an ancient pledge made by them to come to the aid of the Summerland if ever the Dark Lords threatened again. And also in exchange for this seal, you're given the legendary Summer Sword, the last surviving weapon, if you like, that can defeat the Dark Lords themselves. And not only that, but you're also the only person left alive that can actually wield this sword. So it's all on you. Yeah, so there's lots going on, lots of crazy action, lots of adventure, lots of high seas swashbuckling, and this book really does have it all. So you'll also find yourself marked for assassination, which is a really cool little touch in this book. So from the outset of the adventure, you'll uncover murder, intrigue, sabotage that kind of complicates your journey and forces you to kind of employ your combat skills, your Kai disciplines in order to survive. And this first threat occurs on reference 1, so right at the start. And you reach this pub just outside Homeguard near the port, where you're going to catch your ship. And it's called the Good Cheer Inn, where these brigands jump you. And then later on the ship voyage, once you've set sail from Homeguard to the Journey's harbour of Port Backs, the saboteur strikes again. He sets this fire in the hold. He tries to burn out all the food and supplies before you can actually even get to where you're going. So yeah, later on, You also pay this coachman to drive you from the city of Ragaddorn to your destination, but you have to decide who among the other 5 passengers is out there to murder you. And then when you succeed in killing the assassin, which you eventually manage, you will have to escape a fight, or fight actually. I think you can actually avoid this battle altogether, but there's this angry mob of villagers who take you for this kind of bloodthirsty killer after the assassination. Of course, they got it all wrong, but peasants, eh? And then, so with scenes like these encounters, Fire on the Water is incredibly good fun, it's varied, and is utterly unpredictable. Now, in terms of location, as you can see from this map here of Magnamund, you can see up in the north there, if we zoom in, we have the Lastlands being the free kingdom of northern Magnamund. And here is Holmgard, where we begin. And we're going to travel by ship to Ragaddorn, and from there to Duranor, before returning back to Holmgard. So we're going to travel full circle in this one, and it is beset with danger. Okay, let's chat about the game mechanics and that adventure sheet. Right, so the mechanics, they generally stay the same. Your fighting prowess is more or less the same, you establish your combat skill and your endurance, so no real change there. You can either use that random number table that's provided in every book, which is obviously this one here, or you can just use a simple D10, like I used to do. And with that number, once you've got your number, your random number, you add 10 to this, and that's your combat skill. Similar for the endurance, you either use the table or that D10, you add 20, and that will be your endurance. So the combat skill is your ability to battle, and the endurance is obviously your health, and if it reaches 0, it's death. And I mentioned the Kai disciplines in that previous review. From this list here, you can see the whole array of cool disciplines that you can choose from, all these different types. And you can see from the titles as well, they're sort of bestowed upon the Kai, each level of their training. And each time you finish an adventure, you rise in Kai level. And of course, you can then learn a new discipline. You begin the book, or this book, as aspirant. So you've got to choose a new discipline from this list, and that obviously includes the camouflage, the hunting, sixth sense, tracking, healing, weapon skill, mind shield, mind blast, animal kinship, and that last one, mind over matter. And equipment is again a factor. In this particular adventure, you carry 2 weapons at any time. You've got 8 items in your pack, 5 special items, and you can carry up to 50 gold crowns as well. Now, I touched on combat, lone wolf combat in the first review, but just about how it was constructed really. So you've got the enemy's combat skill and endurance, and they're given to you in the text, a bit like this image here. And the sequence for combat is as follows. You add any extra points gained from your Kai disciplines to your current combat skill, and that gives you your total. And then you subtract the combat skill of your enemy from this total, and that's the result of the combat ratio. And then you roll a d10, you pick a number from that random table, whichever one you want to do. The random table looks a bit like this here, so no change from the random number table. Then you turn to the combat results table, which looks a bit like this. And it shows all your combat ratio numbers. You find the number matching your combat ratio, cross-reference it with the random number that you picked earlier, and that's more or less it. You then have your final number. And that final number is, of course, the amount of endurance points that you and your enemy will lose for that round of combat. So you make the note changes to your character sheet, and you just repeat until the fight is over. And speaking of character sheet, Here it is, no real change, except of course that you will notice there is an additional box for Kai disciplines, because of course we have that 6th one to add now. We've still got those weapon boxes, the backpack, the meals, special items, and your belt pouch. So no real change until book 6, I'm afraid. So each time we're just really going to get an additional Kai discipline until we've mastered them all. But otherwise, it's a good character sheet. Does exactly what you need it to do. No real change. Let's have a look at the artwork and any fun facts. Right, so the synergy between Deaver's writing and Chalk's illustrations is exemplified in the final paragraph for me of this adventure, whereupon the triumphant, or your triumphant return to Holmgard, the Summer Sword reveals its full and devastating potential. So that's this image which you can see here. It's a really great one. It's it kind of depicts the power, of the Summer Sword, and of course this blast taking out a tent with the head honcho in just causes the rest of the Giaks and all the other dark villains to flee in terror. So it's a turning point in this book, or even in the series or the saga as a whole. So yeah, Joe Dever's writing is perfectly complemented by Gary Chalk's trusty illustrations once again, and they are especially impressive when depicting all those dynamic scenes such as the charging Helghast or the Drakarum warriors. And the secondary illustrations, they're really just as important in this book in kind of bringing the Magnamund world to life. Chalk portrays the levels of suspicion throughout this adventure really well. Lots of detailed illustrations, dubious waiters that are offering you food lurking around, strange coach passengers, shady looking sailors, and these people, they're all accompanying you on your travels here. Really know who to trust. So yeah, I've got a favourite picture on reference 200. So I'll put that picture up here and you can have a look. So you can see from this double picture, it says in the reference, by the time you reach the bar, the others are all seated at a table awaiting your appearance. Drawing closer to the table, you look carefully at your travelling companions, hoping to see something that will portray the identity of your would-be assassin. You will have to attack without giving any warning to your enemy, so study your fellow travellers carefully and make your decision. And then, of course, you get a choice of who to attack. And now, related to this is reference 220, where it reads as follows. Searching the man's body, you discover all you need to prove that he was an assassin. Inside the pockets, you find a half-empty vial of Nardern sap, a deadly poison that was used to taint your food. Then there's a scroll written in Giak giving details of your expected arrival in Port Bax. He must have located you at Ragadorn and hatched his murder plans there. You notice that the weapon he carries is a dark blade sword fashioned of black steel and forged in the furnaces of Helgadad, the infernal city of the Darklands beyond the Derncrag range. Only there, and a couple of other Darkland city fortresses, in all the vast Magnamund can black steel be wrought. But the final proof of his identity is a serpent tattoo on his left wrist. The harbour thugs who attempted to kill you before you had even left Holmgard bore the exact same mark. So, after all that, which I'll touch on in a bit, you kind of like get all these little clues pointing to who these villains are. And if you look super carefully back at that illustration, you can see there is the serpent tattoo. So it's a really nice use of the artwork, lending a hand to the story. So yeah, some fun facts. Readers start in an incredibly kind of vulnerable position. After that sea voyage, you can wash up that sea voyage to from Holmgard. You can kind of wash up after terrible things happen at sea, completely unarmed and without your backpack items either. So everything kind of gets lost, while you're trying to swim ashore. There's a famous and frustrating moment that occurs when trying to get a lift to Raggadorn, so attempting to kill a fisherman for a ride results in immediate death. And as the rules state, you are unarmed, so that's going to be a tough battle should you come across from there onwards until you can get a weapon. Now, you absolutely need the magic spear in this book to survive a lot of these encounters, certainly with the Helghast later on in this adventure. Failing to obtain it is a common reason for multiple deaths. And the book introduces the Nudniks as well. It's a group of these kind of light-fingered, tunnel-dwelling, rat-like creatures. And there's this image here. Very cool, very well designed and illustrated, and they can help you avoid this dreaded Helghast. The good thing is, in the later reprints, it wasn't made easier, but it was amended slightly so that that magic spear wasn't all important. So you could actually finish it without it. So they kind of played around a little bit to make it a little bit more fair. If you do not have the animal kinship skill, giving your magic spear to the character Rygar to be sort of helpful guarantees you death again later on. But again, I think that's something that they played around with to make it a little bit more fair. The other thing is you've got to have quite a lot of gold in this book. You need at least 22 gold crowns to actually successfully navigate the later stages of this journey to Port Bax. The book also rewards knowledge from the first book, which I really like, allowing you to kind of use information that was offered by Baindon in Flight from the Dark during an encounter with the treacherous Vonatar. So all these little clues and even sort of a detailed history, the lore that you get in these books. All of it is worth reading because it kind of helps you get through the later books. So yeah, lots of interesting fun facts there. And we can now have a look at my own likes and dislikes for this book. I really like the consistent and well-developed world, the character progression from book to book, including all the new equipment, disciplines, but also Lone Wolf's heroic reputation, which of course begins to precede him. The fun and simple combat rules are a far cry from that tedious roll 2 dice, lose 2 stamina from another popular series. But these books, they're not one true path. And they don't force you to do the exact same thing every time you replay it, which is always a good thing, to sort of win this game. I'm not so keen on the increasing linearity of the later books. Certainly the early books, of the Kai series, these first 5 books, they're open world. But as we progress through to the Magni Kai series, I found paths became a little bit more linear. But, the Falling Masts section in the Sea Voyage is another dislike for me. You cannot avoid, through any combination of strategy that I could find, this section. It always causes you to for your ship to sink, essentially. And the eventual sort of decision to force readers to have maximum stats is also, a bit of a pain. And all those bonus, all that bonus equipment just to have a small chance of winning. But again, I think it's something that was tweaked in this latest edition. But otherwise, it's all good. Let's have a look at this summary and give it a score out of 10. So overall, Fire on the Water is a little more challenging to complete than its predecessor, though it is still relatively straightforward in its sort of structure. With the exception of losing the Seal of Hammerdal to thieves, you will struggle to find routes leading to certain failure. There's not too many of those instant deaths, and those there are quite clearly stated, so you get a nice little heads up. You're more likely to lose due to, some unfortunate dice rolling or choosing to do something that was obviously hazardous in the first place. Like, charging a defensive line of elite journey soldiers or barging into the headquarters of the Silent Brotherhood. Don't do that. Fire on the Water is a deeply atmospheric, interactive story that transports you into this coherent, ambitious, and multifaceted fantasy world. There is no denying that Book 2 is packed with beautiful scenes that linger in your memory long after the adventure is complete. For example, uncloaking the assassin is always rewarding, killing the town's guard in a single combat, or even running through a hellgast with that magic spear. And then there's leaping amongst the enemy vessels at the end while you've got that huge vessel combat going on. It's really, really, truly something that kind of sticks in the mind. So as you're approaching 50 like me, it's still kind of fresh in there. Most impressive of all is the description of Tarnalin. So this is this immense tunnel, over 100 feet in height, and also in breadth. It cuts through this 40 miles of mountainside that's between the sort of Duranese mountain range. Similar to the Mines of Moria. I always thought of those Mines of Moria, from Lord of the Rings when I was reading this part. There's a real difference in the construction of these first two Lone Wolf books. So you've got Flight from the Dark, it's geared around being as many possible routes to the capital as possible that you can take. And this makes for a good level of replayability. I know that I could pick up that book now and still find a path that I didn't know about. So there's that, that's a really good standout point for that first book. It makes for a good level of replayability, to really explore this each section. But it also means that the actual journey from the monastery to Holmgard is quite short. But in contrast, Fire on the Water truly feels like this epic journey, although one where there isn't a huge amount of different options to take or paths to venture. You can make different choices in such places as Raggadorn, that city. You can wander all over that place, and on the path through the journey's forest as well. But Lone Wolf generally hits the same choke point each time, as you would expect. And once you know what the best kind discipline to pick is, if you really do need that animal kinship as a skill, with a bit of careful planning and avoiding getting killed on that coach ride, the adventure isn't actually that hard, with only a modest number of sort of tough combats to cause you any grief. This is a strong successor to Flight from the Dark and only enhances the need for further adventures in Magnamund, so it really sets you up to want to gear on with those further books. You will find much more random die rolling to determine your path in this story, taking away some of the decision making. Certainly when you're crossing the ocean, there's a lot of random choice there. But I don't mind that too much. It kind of throws in a little bit of uncertainty. But certainly during the sea voyage, like I say, that return trip from Port Bax to Holmgard, I quite like this, as it kind of offers a variety, and a sense of not being in control of your own destiny. So that die kind of takes away some of that choice. The adventure romp gives a strong sense of purpose and a clear goal and objective, making the stakes seem higher than ever. I love this game book, and it feels Dever was finding his stride. So I'm going to give this book a very high 8 out of 10. It's absolutely tip-top, and it just carries on beautifully from Flight from the Dark. So 8 out of 10. And that is my review of Fire on the Water. I hope you liked it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, but please put a comment in there. Let me know your thoughts on this book, if you read it back in the day, or if you're just coming to it now, or if you're planning to read it. It'd be really great to hear from you. Tell me what you think about the author, the illustrations, that character progression. It's always good to hear from you. And if you think you know someone who liked the channel, then just share it out there. The next book will be book 3, Caverns of Calte. So we're going to have a look at that one next. I'll catch you in that review.